Hello, friends. Good morning, and welcome to our third week of On The Vise. Really excited to be here again this Saturday with you, and just a couple things I wanted to share with you before we get started, just so you know how today. We have a featured tire this week who is Bill Frangos, and I'll say a little bit more about Bill here in just a second, but Bill's got several patterns for us, and we're gonna, at the conclusion of each pattern he ties for us, we're gonna have a brief Q&A. So you guys out there on YouTube, we'd love to hear from you. If you got questions, put those questions in the comment section and we'll get to them, and we'll throw them at Bill and give them to him, and he'll get them answered for you. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and so you don't miss an episode at all. And you know, you've heard me say this before, at Montrose Anglers, obviously we're about fly fishing, but we're about community. And today's tire, Bill Frangos, he exudes that. And Bill has been a huge partner to anglers in our community for years. Interestingly, Bill first moved here in 1983. He was a founding member of our Gunnison Gorge Anglers TU chapter, and then he moved off to make his fortune, and in 2019 he came back and picked up right where he left. He serves, and he was serving in New Mexico with Healing Waters, serving the vets in fly tying and rod building, and he's serves on our board at Gunnison Gorge Anglers. He's an incredible mentor that I know many of you that are probably watching have been served by him. So, you know, he's got some great and interesting flies he wants to share with us this morning. So with that, Bill, it's on you, man.
Good morning. You know, what I typically try to do is show you a couple things that will work well, and I also try and show a couple things that may take you out of your comfort zone. So today I'm going to show you some really simple midges that in the wintertime are just tremendous, and they work. So we're going to go through a zebra midge. We're going to do, first off, a variation of Andy Kim's Summer Brown, what he called it was the Young Special. It's basically coats and thread, and that's where I'm going to start, is with the, I call it the summer bling midge. But then we're going to do a zebra midge, and then we're going to do a brown loop-winged Mayfly emerger. And we can do that in multiple colors, but I'm going to do a brown one. Then I'm, hopefully on the second hour, we're going to go to a Houdini Weave. And if you've never seen a Houdini Weave, it looks complicated. First do it, you think, okay, this is the way. But if you just fight through the initial panic, you'll find out that it's really easy, and it can go by super fast. You can crank out some gorgeous flies in a hurry. Then we're going to do a woven stonefly, and since we have a stonefly hatch that is epic here, we're going to do a woven stonefly using a knot weave. So, you know, that's where we're going to go today. I'm going to start off. With this Summer Brown, Summer Bling midge, and this is done with Coates and Clark thread. And what I do is it's a sewing thread, and it's got a very interesting fuzz, and that's the only way I can put it, that comes off it. It really is brilliant. It traps air, it does something, it comes to life because of the thread. But it's summer brown thread. You get it at the sewing store. It's only, you can get this at Walmart, and literally it's an all-purpose thread. It comes all-purpose. You can get it in multiple colors. I've got green, I've got yellow, I've got several colors. But what you do is you re-spool it. So I normally, when I re-spool it, I put it on my drill, a spool on my drill. I pull it off of the original spool onto a temporary spool, and then put the temporary spool and pull it back. So it's always facing the proper direction when you're winding. So if you look, I've got this re-spooled on a normal thread, a normal spool that'll fit my bobbin. And the thing is, and when you do this, this is part of thread control. And this will teach you thread control. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that thread up over my hook, and I'm going to counterclockwise spin the thread. What I'm doing, this summer brown is 2 pieces of thread that is woven together. Okay? So when you counterclockwise, it unwinds. Okay? And if once you get it unwound, and I'm going to put it up against my hook shank, hopefully. Really? There we go. And hold it against my hook shank till it's unwound. And once you get it down to the 2 pieces of thread, and you'll see it happen, then you can wrap it. You can wrap it, it'll be real thin going on. So I'm going to wrap forward and then wrap back, okay? My tag. And you notice my thread trying to spin again, it's trying to rewind. It's trying to go back to its natural position. I'm going to try and get it to where it's flat. Okay? And I'm going to go all the way back to the bend of the hook, way deep into the bend. The original young petrel is on a hook, 2 hooks, and you can 24, 26. Now I'm going to clockwise spin my bobbin. And what I've done is I've turned the hook so it doesn't hit the point, and I'm going to spin that thing until it cords up. Because that's where you're going to find fuzzies come out of the thread, and you're going to find that cording it up will give it the segmentation you want on this midge. And it'll give a real natural segmentation. But I'm really cording it up. If you look, I'm spinning it to where it just doesn't want to go any further. So now when I wrap this, just touching turns, it's gonna give a really good segmentation. And it'll be fuzzy, which everybody likes fuzzy. For some reason, the fish really like fuzzy. I'm going to bring it just short of onto the. I'm probably an eye and a half back from the eye. I'm going to put on some Vevus. I've got 16-aught Vevus thread that I'm going to put on, and this is just a black thread. And I'm going to put that on and get it started. Build it a little bit, trim off my tag. And what I'm going to do now is I've got this naturally unwound. I'm going to unwind it a little bit more and flatten it out as much as I can because I want the profile. I'm going to take a wrap over and tie it down, okay? And I'm going to tie it down to the front. And then I'm going to bring it back and tie back over it a little bit more. And just kind of build my head here. Go ahead and trim my tag. Okay. The next thing I'm going to put on is a little Flashaboll. And this is just pearlescent tinsel. It's Flashaboll. It's really nice because I can pull out one piece and tie a bunch of flies off of one piece. So I'm just going to pull out one. If you hold it at about a 45-degree angle and underneath, I'm going to go ahead and put this back a little further, tie down any loose things I've got. It'll trap, then I can pull it to where it's not going to impede my eye. Okay. I'm going to build it back a little bit onto the brown. Okay. And then come back forward where I'm going to tie it off. And all you've got to do is just build up a little bit of bling here, and it doesn't take much. The bling, I've found, really works at times. You can tie this without the bling, and it is a young special. But the bling, for some reason, gives it just that little bit of emergent flash that sometimes is the ticket. At this point, I'm going to build up the head with a whip finish. By the way, I'm tying this one on an 18, and I do tie these down to about 24 and 26. I try and put on a little bulbous head. Nice word, isn't it? Bulbous? I know. Impressive. I know. Language skills. And then I'm using Loon Thin. And what I'm going to do is just basically put a little coating over the head and the flash only. You want that thread. There you go. You want that thread to have those little fuzzies. And you don't mind if this gets tore up, because if it gets tore up, it means you're catching fish. And as you get old, like I am, you get the shake, so you have to hold your hand with the other hand to keep from shaking too much. A little UV laser. And that baby, that's a dog that'll hunt, and it'll hunt all day. These things really work well. I've done real well with these down in the Gunnison. And you've got to get them down in the water column most of the time, but you know, and you can fish them by themselves, or you can fish them behind something real heavy. But this little thing, and I don't know if you can really zoom in and see the fuzzies off that, but it really, for some reason, the fuzzy on that thread makes a difference. So that's the summer bling midge. Now I can do that in summer brown. I have a green that works really well. If you look at that green thread, that's also an all-purpose sewing thread that's been respooled. I've got a pink there. What I'll do with the green is I will use a chartreuse wire and go up between the ribs, that works really well. But I've got pink, I've got yellow. It really is just a super, super good fly to have around. I'm going to send this one around.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, that was you used the sewing thread, the brown sewing thread. Is that what you did?
Coates and Clark sewing thread.
Coates and Clark sewing thread.
And you can get it. The fact is, I got that one at Walmart. That last, well, my original was at Walmart, and I mean, one little sewing thread, all-purpose summer brown is the color.
Thread that onto a temporary and then thread it back on.
And then thread it back, and that way, when you spin it, it'll spin the proper direction. Because if you go right to the one, it's actually going backwards. So you'd have to start thinking backwards.
Yeah, that's good segmentation.
Isn't that cool? And the segmentation is all caused by the thread. It's just by
there's no wire there.
Thread control and but if you really look close and the sunlight helps, you can really see the fuzzies sticking out on that. And that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the recipes are in the descriptions on the YouTube page.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears here and we're going to go to a zebra midge. Now, you can't go wrong with a zebra midge. That's probably the first fly I go to almost always. It's one of the first flies that I go to when I'm wanting to hunt some fish around here. I love the tungsten bead. What I'm using, and I'm going to go ahead and show you, I'm using an Umpqua hook. This is a curved hook. This is a size 18. I'm going to go ahead and tie it in an 18, but I like to tie these in 20 to 24. I do tie them in 18. I catch a lot of fish with them in 18. I always start big and go smaller. I want the biggest hook I can. I'm that way. I want the biggest hook I can get away with. But you know, always have some that are a little smaller in your box. My hardest chore of the entire day is getting a bead on a hook. Okay, and if you're at all like me, you're going to find that as you get older, that's the truth. What I typically do is I'll put it in a hemostat, like this. Get it in a hemostat. Let me pull it back a little bit. And then I'm using 2mm MFC tungsten beads. And what I'll do typically is I'll just dip it into the beads until one comes up. Do you see what I mean? Now, that doesn't mean it's on there right, because there's a big hole and a little hole. So right now I've got it in the little hole the wrong way. So what I'm going to do is then just grab the bead, take it out, put it back in the right way. Easier said than done. Of course, that's how it is typically. And it helps when you have the shakes. Now, in this case, I'm going to show you this, because I have an 18 hook, I've got a little bit of, because I didn't bend the barb down, I may have to push it around. But once you push it around, you can press down the barb and push it around, or just push it around. I just pushed it with my fingernail, okay? Once you've got that, then the rest of your day is easy. This is about the easiest midge you will ever tie. And what makes it so easy is you got two things. You got black thread and you got a piece of silver wire. The key is having a small black thread. Again, I'm using the 16-aught Vevus, which is really, it's a very strong thread, and it doesn't build up a lot if you don't want it to. If you want it to, it will. All I'm doing is pinning down the bead a little bit, trim it off. I'm going to take some wire, and what I've got is some extra small silver wire, or if you're cheap like I am, which I go through a lot of extra small silver wire, and you can see my spool is about empty. But if you're cheap like I am, you can also trim off some wire that goes electrical wire, and you get this great extra small silver wire, and you can strip it in lengths to where you can get one length that'll build multiple midges. And that's, you know, when you tie enough, you find ways. What you can do is thread that into or behind the bead, okay, like that, and then come down the side of the hook if you can. If you can't, and it just depends on which way you're going, I'm going to take it down the side of the hook a little bit and just touching turns. Now, if I want to flatten this out counterclockwise, it's going to flatten out that thread. And that's just keeping a real small profile. If you've ever seined the midges, there's almost nothing to them. They're so thin. I mean, they're anorexic thin, okay? So you want them as thin as possible. So flatten the thread if you can, if you think about it, if you really want it to be a super realistic midge. Everything's tied in. I'm going to take spiral wraps with that wire. And the further you go, you open the wrap a little bit. As you go up and get closer to the bead, you're opening the spiral a little bit. So you start close together and open it up a little bit. And then right behind the bead, I'm going to give it a couple more wraps, a couple extra wraps. The reason I give it that couple extra wraps, it traps the bead. And then I'm going to go ahead and just finish that off right there. Helicopter the wire. That's about as simple as you get. For those of you that don't like this tool, this whip finisher, I'm going to give you a quick way to show you how to do it. If you put your finger on that bead, it'll hold it. Put the bend of the whip finisher, lift above the hook. Use the hook here, and at that point, it'll flip over. See that little X? Then you just wrap that little X around where you want it tied down. Take the bend out, pull your bobbin, life's good. Rinse and repeat. Put your finger on the bead, put the bend in, lift above the hook, hook that, bring this level. See that 4 there with my thread? Okay, bring that right where you want it to go, and then go around. Bend out, pull the bobbin. So many people have trouble with a whip finisher, and you shouldn't have trouble with a whip finisher. I'm just telling you right now.
No reason to put any finishing glue on a zebra like this?
You know, I look at it and say, if they can get through that wire, they deserve that fly, okay? Because most of the time, they won't get through the wire. And that's the zebra midge. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Well tied. Thank you. And well tied.
Pass that one around. Okay. Now we're going to do something really entertaining. We're going to do a loop wing merger with some organza and summer brown thread and Coq De Leon. A standard dry fly hook works great here. I just happened to pick this one up out of the tray since I saw it and thought, yeah, I'm going to use it. What I've got, and I'm going to show you guys another cheap deal. This is called organza ribbon, okay? Organza ribbon comes in the fabric shop, okay? And you can get a whole spool of this for, they have them on sale most of the time. I mean, you can go to Joann's and pick up organza ribbon. Now, I love fly shop stuff when you're doing lots of certain things. But if you're doing like I do, you get a piece of organza ribbon like this, okay? And you can pull these out, these little things out here. You'll find that along the edge, in fact I got one here I just happened to find the right one. You see that one strand? If I pull that one strand, it will literally unravel. You see how I'm unraveling that? That way you can take the individual long fibers, and that is what your legs are going to be, okay? And we'll do this one in gold because gold goes well with brown. So we're going to go ahead and I wanted to show you how that organza ribbon works there. It really is, it makes great legs if you do organza flies. Now mind you, you can get organza here at Montrose Anglers. You can get it from any of your local fly shops and not have to go through the work. This one is Fluoro Fiber is what it's called. And if you look, there's brown. And that's the color on this one. Sorry, let me get my finger out of the way. And you know, but it comes in all colors. White makes wonderful legs. Black, I love, and I love the legs in black. But we're going to use the gold just because it's an emerger, and I like a little flash this time of year, something to get their attention. I'm going to take some Coq De Leon, okay, and I'm going to literally take it at a 90-degree angle off of the stem, pinch it, and pull it, okay? Of course, it would have been nice if I started my thread first. That's okay. We're good at this. We can do it with our hands full. I'm going to go ahead and do just like I did on the summer brown bling, the summer bling midge. I'm going to spin that counterclockwise until I get down to two strands. which I'm close. Not quite there, but close. I normally put my finger on it, and that's what happens when you try and do that with too much stuff in your hands. We're going to try that again. I normally put my finger on this, like that, and then spin it to where that counterclockwise spin, I'm getting it down to the 2-strand. And I'm just doing that to thin this out because I want a real thin profile. If you notice, mayflies in the wintertime are also rather anorexic. And we want them to imitate as best as we can. Okay, there we go. So I've got that started. I'm going to trim off my excess. I've got my Coq De Leon tail. I'm going to measure it. Look, it's a little bit. What I'm going to try and do is get that about a body length, maybe shorter. Okay, and tie it in. I'm going to counterclockwise spin this one more time. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and lift up the tail and throw one wrap under. Okay. See how that splays the tail a little bit? That's what I want. Now I'm going to clockwise spin it, and I'm going to spin it till I feel better. This is what's going to give the body the segmentation I want. And if I turn my vise, it'll keep it away from the hook point where it's likely to bite and cause a problem. Again, I'm going to hold that tail down and start it. There we go. And I'm going to wrap that, give it some good segmentation. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and start my black thread just like I did before. And this is that 16/0 Vevus. Anytime I'm tying small, I want to have some small thread. Okay. Take my tag end. I'm going to kind of point that brown forward and wrap over. I'm just basically building the thorax a little bit with that thread. Whoop. Yeah. Okay. And then back. Okay. Get rid of the summer brown. Okay, now we're going to use some of that organza we so painfully prepared. And I'm just going to take and you can use as much or as little as you want. Some people take exactly 6 pieces, spread the legs exactly perfect, because this is not only going to be the loop wing, this is also going to be the legs. So I'm going to take a small batch of it, trim it. There we go. I have a piece of that organza here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to wet it real quick. And when you wet it, see how it all sticks together? All I did was lick my fingers and wet it. Probably not a COVID approved method, but then again, we make sacrifices. Okay, I'm going to lay that on top, pinch. I did a pinch wrap. I'm going to pull it straight down like that. That brought it on. one more wrap over. Then I'm going to pull these back to where they're out of my way. So I'm going to wrap a little bit further back, pull them back to where they're not going to cause an issue with the eye of the fly. Okay? I'm going to come actually back onto the summer brown thread a little bit. I've got some dubbing, some super fine dubbing. And what you do with a super fine dubbing now is you build a little thorax. So this is super fine dubbing. This I got at Los Pinos Fly Shop in Albuquerque. A shout out to those guys because they're real nice. They're as nice as Montrose Anglers is. Okay. Pretty crotchety people, yeah. I love these boxes of super fine dubbing. You get a ton of dubbing for like 15 bucks or less. And what's nice about it is if you run out, then you just buy a package and refill that one color. But I mean, I've had this forever, and I use it all the time. The thing about dubbing, if those of you that know, the thing about dubbing is you take a pinch of it and you think, okay, that's enough. No, that's too much. Cut it in half, okay, and that may be too much. Most people cut it in half twice. And that may be the right amount. You can always add. It's a pain to take off. If you feel like you don't have enough, you can add more. The other thing about dubbing, if you will hold your bobbin down and have your thread taut, you pinch the thread and spin one direction only. This does not grab the thread. What this grabs is itself. If you notice how it slides up and down, okay? It's grabbing itself. So you can slide it up, you can slide it down. But what you want to do is build a little thorax here, just like that. Leave yourself some room at the eye. And now I've got a little fine mayfly body. It's a segmented body with a summer brown thread. It's a nice thorax, not too fat, although I do like a fat thorax. I mean, look at me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and create a loop here. I'm going to pinch this loop with my left hand to where I can then get my thread and pinch it, bring it over the top, and bring it straight down. Do you see how I've got that? Now I can adjust that. In other words, I can make that loop whatever size I want. So if it's too big, which it is, I can pull it. If it's too small, I can pull it the other direction. Now, I lost my loop because I slipped off the eye. I'm going to put another thread wrap in and adjust it. And the other way to adjust it, by the way, is to put in your bodkin. And as you get with smaller flies, you can do this. There you go. There's my loop. Now I'm going to go ahead and cinch that down a little bit and just make sure it's not going to go anywhere. I'm going to take half the legs, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off a little bit so I can see where my legs are, okay? I'm going to take half the legs, stick them on one side, and take half the legs, stick them on the other side. So all I'm going to do is pull them back and up, do a thread wrap, back and up, thread wrap, thread wrap. Those are going to be my legs. So you see that? Okay. And now I'm going to whip finish this thing. And I get a question a lot, why do you whip finish it twice? Because it's 2 times better than whip finishing it once. The reason I do that is knots have a tendency to come undone, and I don't really like having to put on head cement or super glue or anything like that. At this point, what I'm going to do is pull these legs back, and just about halfway down the body, I'm going to trim them. Yep, missed a couple. Try that again. Let's see if I can do this without shaking. There we go. And now you got little legs on both sides. Isn't that pretty? And you can do this with multiple colors of organza, multiple colors of thread, and it really is a simple fly. And it always looks good. I mean, it's one of those things that it's just got enough flash, enough sparkle that you just go, okay, I can do that.
What time of the year would you typically fish those?
I'll fish that year round. That loop wing, I'll fish that year round.
Would you fish that into film rather than sinking it?
You know what? It's kind of funny. Funny you should ask that. But I'll fish dry flies sunken. I'll fish emergers. I mean, emergers sometimes are just stuck and they drowned. So it can be anywhere in the water column. I like to fish them just underneath. In other words, I would love to fish that behind a dry, like an emerger, but I've been known to put them right next to a zebra midge down deep, you know, with a tungsten bead, because they drowned. And so don't be afraid to fish that anywhere in the water column.
Would you have a favorite time over others?
Yeah, I love that in the springtime. Yeah, and I'll do that with blue-winged olives, and I'll use a gray organza, sometimes white as well, and sometimes black, but with the green or an olive, more of a dark.
Down at Floro?
They will fish well down in the portal. And you can tie those. You can tie those. You can tie those down to some pretty small sizes. They're really not too difficult. The problem is you get some pretty meaty fish on those small sizes, so you better have a stout hook. Okay, any questions? Did that look easy? How we doing time-wise?
Oh, we're doing great. You got plenty of time. So.
Well, you know, what I'm going to do just to eat a little bit of time, because I don't want to go into the weaves until the next hour. I'm going to do one more loop wing on a curved scud hook, and we're going to do it in a different color. So it just happens to be we'll just do a repeat, a rinse and repeat, but you don't have to stick to a straight dry fly hook for this. You can put it on a Scud hook, and it'll come out just fine. This is an 18. U202, which is a curved Scud. And I like this on curved hooks as well. Again, I'm gonna do it exactly the same way, but with a different color. Let's see, I do have a yellow. Here's a yellow. We'll do this with yellow. And again, this is the same, this is sewing thread that's been respooled, okay? So I'm just gonna do it really the exact same method. And if you look there, you can see that that's getting flat, that thread, and that's what I want. I want it to flatten out so I can get thin. Thin to win is what they say. Thin is counterclockwise, and cording it up is clockwise. And that'll help you in a lot of ways. You know, a lot of people have trouble with thread control, and if what you find is the more you tie, the more you'll find that thread control is everything. If I want the thread to go back, you spin it one way. In other words, if I lift this loop and I want the thread to jump backwards with a little slack, by spinning it a certain direction, you can get it to jump back or jump forward. Normally when you cord it up, it jumps forward, and when you loosen it, it jumps backwards. I use the pinch method a lot, which is basically putting your material on your hook, pinching the thread, and pulling straight down. That puts the material right where you want it. Okay? There we go. I got my thread where I want it now too. So I'm going to take this one on a Scud hook. I'm going to make the tail a little shorter. So after I get a couple of wraps in, I'm going to make the tail a little shorter. I'm going to go ahead and unwind that a little bit more, come back a little bit further. And try and avoid the hook point, unlike me. I'm going to bring, and notice I'm turning the vise. This is to keep, when I cord this up, it's to keep from hitting that hook point and perhaps damaging my thread, because this really is, it's sewing thread. It's not intended purpose is not for flies. It's for putting buttons on. But if you look, I mean, I am cording that thing up. Look at how my thread, it just keeps going up and up and up. But that's what gives you that segmentation, and you'll really see it, and you'll see the fuzzies on this one a lot better on the yellow. Okay. Okay, I'm going to build that a little bit right there. There we go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and start my black again. Build a little bit of a thorax. Come back. Like the way I loop that? Okay, it spins the other way too. There you go. Okay. And a little bit of lock. What do you think? Black wing case? Brown? Doesn't matter. Black. And you can make this as a wing case. If you don't like the loop wing, you can actually make a wing case out of it, and it'll work just fine. Now, if you pre-prepare this, you get some organza ribbon, zip ties. That's how you do it. Nothing you can't do with zip ties. Okay.
Zip ties and duct tape.
Zip ties and duct tape. That sounds like I'm being a little bit more criminal than I should be. Of course, some people say my flies are criminals, so they're just envious. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lay that on there, do a little pinch wrap, pull it down. I got it on top. See how it's on top with one wrap? I'm going to put one more wrap. I'm going to slide this back and get it to where it's not going to impede the eye. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie it down. There we go. And the nice thing is I can make the thorax any color I want. And I'm going yellow. Let's see, how about a green? Little green, a little dark thorax like he's about to emerge. Again, it's a wisp. It's not much more than a wisp. We're talking belly button lint here, folks. It's not a whole lot more than that, okay? Super fine dubbing and belly button lint. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and build that thorax. This one's really going to have a big thorax. Okay, there we go. I'm going to take that over the top. I'm going to pinch it, pull it straight down on the other side. It's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to adjust the size to where I like it. About like that, right there. And then I'm going to tie it down. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Okay. Now, if that wing is off a little bit, you can adjust it before you go too far. And that one was off just a little bit. See, now it's much better. See how straight that is now? And that's just a matter of go ahead and tweak it while you're tying it because you're not going to want to tweak it later. Okay. I'm going to take this. I'm going to get these legs where they're manageable because I got a big old long chunk. Again, if you want to use this extra piece for the next fly, wet them. And you can put them down and they'll stay together until you get there. So if you're using them, you know, you're tying a bunch of them, that's the way you do it. Go ahead and separate these about half and half, give or take. And you don't have to be perfect. Fish don't count. They don't count the number of legs. They don't. So if there's an extra one on one side, they're not going to notice. We try our hardest to tie realistically, but, you know, we have to remind ourselves, fish have the brain the size of a pea, and they just want to know, does it look like food? And which I can identify. That's my requirement. Does it look like food? There's one, and there's two. All right. See? I knew we could eat the time away. And then what's nice with black is I can see it a lot better. So when I cut the legs, and I still miss two. Yeah, go ahead. I can't even get rid of what's left on my finger.
That was for Jeff, and you always give me a hard time about breaking his thread.
Yeah, he does break his thread quite a bit.
Is that you? Yeah. Is that the back of that? I broke my thread before I had a hook in the vise the other night.
It really? I mean, he didn't even have a hook in the vise and he broke his thread. There you go. So that's your loop wing emerger. And if you just pull that wing case where the loop is, it can just be a wing case and just be a nymph, and it'll work the same.
No legs.
No, you pull the wing case flat across the thorax, and then fold the legs back again, and it just looks like a nymph. So it's like
You
it's
wouldn't do the wing, you just fold it over like a
right.
pheasant tail or like a flashback.
Exactly, and it works.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
We got one comment from our friend Kent, and I know this is coming from others as well. If you can remember, we can't hear the questions in the crowd online as well. So if you think about it, if you could restate the question, that'd be awesome. Just so people can understand the context.
I agree. I was saying, and the question came up from the floor. You just basically. The question was, to make it a nymph, you just pull the organza forward to where the loop flattens against the thorax. But the question was, do you not use the legs? And I said, no, you use the legs. Fold the legs back. This would just be a wing case and the legs the same way. That's a good comment, by the way. Thank you for that question.
Joel also wanted me to give you a shout out, said he really hated not being here, but wish he could. Said, hey, so.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah. Can I get you a water to wet your whistle? Are you good?
I'm good.
You good? Okay, sweet. Ready to do some weaving?
I'm ready to do some weaving.
All right.
That's the second half. Is there a little break there?
Up to you guys.
Yeah, we can do a break if you'd like. Absolutely.
Just a little break so I can
do some stretching and
just get set up again.
We're going to take just a few minute break in between, and then we'll be back to do some weaving. Thanks. He's ready. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Bill's going to give us a little bit of magic right now. Is that a good intro to Houdini? There you go.
You know, one of the things that you find when you tie flies for a long time is you get into a rut. I get into a rut pretty routinely. Fact is, I got into a rut this morning. I tied the zebra bling midge and forgot to put this bling in it. Okay? Normally, if I'm doing a zebra bling midge, I put some either Flashaboll or some Vevus rainbow thread, rainbow flash in there, and just behind the bead. I forgot, I'm sorry, forgive me. The other way we get into a rut is we tie the same things all the time and never try anything new. Well, I'm going to show you something you probably haven't seen, and if you have, you probably haven't tried. Most people are afraid to try weaving. Weaving is not that hard. But why would you want to weave? It's cool, okay? It really makes some impressive looking flies, and they catch fish and they're durable. What I'm going to use right now, I'm going to use a Firehole 551 size 8, okay, jig hook, okay? If you're a Euro nympher, you're going to love this because this thing goes down like a bomb. I've got a tungsten bead. This one is a mound, Firehole mound, okay? And this is a green. What I've got on here is a black nickel. I'm going to go ahead and use a black nickel as opposed to the green. I can do the green if we want, but you know, we're not going to go there yet this morning. I'm going to go ahead and tie this with medium ultra wire, and I'm going to use 2 colors. This one is black, and then the other one is chartreuse, and it's medium chartreuse, okay? Contrasting colors make for a nice weave, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to start this thing off, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, about 8 inches, maybe 10 inches of wire, okay? And I'm going to take that 8 or 10 inches of wire, and since medium is stronger than I am, I'm going to actually cut. When you cut wire, get way down in deep with your scissors so you don't, you know, and have material scissors for that, but never cut wire with the tips. If you want to see me go crazy, cut wire with the tips. I'll go crazy on you. I'm going to take the same length of the chartreuse green, okay, give or take, and I'm going to do these 2 pieces are going to get tied together. And no, I'm not going to teach you knot tying, although I can. I do teach knot tying, which I love, but this is a pretty simple overhand knot. I'm going to put the 2 pieces of wire together on one end, and I'm going to basically do an overhand knot. So there's a loop. This is what's nice about wire, is you can actually make it work. There's a loop, and then I'm going to pass that through. And if you're at the point of being flustered, you can use your hemostats, okay, and pull those 2 tag ends through. I'm just trying not to go crazy on using material. So I'm going to pull those 2 strands through. And this is just an overhand knot. There's nothing magic about that. And then tie it down. So I've got an overhand knot on one side. Then I'm going to go to the other side. And you can see when I say approximately even, now they're even, okay? What I'm going to do is do another overhand knot. And now we're ready to do this weave. Are you ready for this?
Just about.
Okay. I've got some camera work that's going to be done here. And this is a tribute to how well the filming is going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to bring the light to the back. I'm going to set this hook in to where I'm using my vise to keep me from going further back than I need to. I'm going to take my wire and separate them, okay? And if you look how my hands are, I'm pointing away from myself with my fingers and to the outside with my fingers. I'm going to come under, and then I'm going to flip it over. Notice the dark is on the bottom. I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to put the green on the bottom. Okay? Now, what happens is the one you want on top is the one you start on top, okay? Now, I'm going to take this right now, and I'm going to do a couple of wraps under with the black, under with the left, under with the right, okay? And then I'm going to pull it back against the vise, okay? If you, my fingers are now pointed towards me. I'm going to go over with the green and over with the green. Okay. Now I'm going to go under with the black, pull it back, under with the black, pull it back, over with the green, over with the green, under with the black, under with the black, over with the green, over with the green, under with the black, under with the black, over, over, under, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, under. Now, I'm going to push it all back and compress it a little bit, and then do a few more. Over, over, pull it back, under, under. And now I'm just going to fill in the space with an over and an over. Okay. At this point, you've woven that body. And if you look at the underside and you look at the top side, okay, isn't that pretty? Look at how nice that looks, okay? Now, I could leave it like that, but why would I do that? I'm going to go ahead and twist helicopter, okay? And sometimes this helicopter is better than others. And then I'm going to twist and helicopter. Okay. Now we can complete this fly. So I have a fly that's weighted really nicely, that has a real pretty profile, okay? It just needs a little bit of magic now. We need some straggle eggs. Straggle eggs, I never really got to use until last year. And I learned about straggle eggs right here at Montrose Anglers, okay? And I've gotten to where I love these things, because they add a lot to a fly. Straggle eggs are a Semperfli product, and I'm using the black straggle. And I mean, I use them on ant patterns. I use them on a lot of Caddis emerger patterns, just because they're just so good. I'm going to go ahead and cut off a piece as soon as I can get it back under the deal, because I hate to have them unravel on me. There we go. I went ahead and started my thread back in here, and I could have started, I normally use a heavier thread. Fact is, I started with the wrong thread, so I'm going to go ahead and unravel that, although it did really well with the small thread. There we go. Let's go to this is Ultra Thread 140 UTC. I just want to have something durable that'll handle the wire, because I've got chunks of wire in there. Okay. Now, mind you, this fly is bulletproof. You won't tear this fly up. 100 fish won't tear this fly up. They may wear the color off the wire, but the wire ain't going nowhere, because it's in there. Okay, so all I've done was done a few wraps, getting my thread started. I'm going to go ahead and tie that straggle in. And you don't even have to be pretty with this. All you have to do is make sure you get it tied in. And then I'm just going to go ahead and give him a nice set of legs right here. This right with black and chartreuse green, you're looking at a caddis that is just gonna just go down there and beat them. But this would be a great anchor fly if you're doing Euro nymphing, which you know has become all the rage, or as us old timers call it, high stick nymphing, which is really what Euro nymphing is high sticking. But how easy is this? We're going to do one more of these because I know you're going to have questions. Everybody has questions. Since I can't find my whip finisher, we're going to do it by hand. Do it the old-fashioned way. That's pretty good. I found my whip finisher while I was whip finishing. Now, that one I tied with the green on the back. I can tie it with the green on the underside just by flipping the wires. Here, pass that around. Tell me what you think. And I'll take any questions from the floor and I'll repeat them.
Where'd the name come from?
The Houdini Weave?
Yeah.
I don't know. I found it on the internet.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing what you can learn on the internet?
So was that James Flatton last year that you saw the Straggle Eggs for the first time?
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool.
And James got me sold on them. And they're those Straggle Eggs, I use them in so many patterns. I use them on dries. I use them on nymphs. I use them everywhere. And it really is a great product. Semperfli really came up with a winner. And they come in different color, and I mean, it really is something to see. I'm going to do one more of these because I know there's going to be, someone's going to go, okay, I got to see that again. Okay. So I just put another hook on the and bead on the hook. I'm going to go ahead and do this one with the same colors.
And you always turn your vise.
Yeah, it's
90 degrees facing you.
Facing me. That's exactly right. And if you see, it really doesn't take long, does it?
No.
Is there any reason you wouldn't want to give that a try? Just to say, I did a Houdini weave? It really is a neat fly, and you'll like the way it fishes, because it really fishes great. And you can do it in so many different colors. As long as you have some contrasting color, it is something else. I like it in golds. You can do golden stones and have a gold and a brown wire. And let me tell you, it's pretty. It's really pretty. You know, but like I said, it's one of those things you kind of smile and go, yeah, I can play with it. And that's the thing. That's the joy of tying flies, is experimenting. You know, get out of your comfort zone. Try something new. And you might just impress yourself. I impressed myself when I tied it. I thought, okay, I can do that. So again, it's just an overhand knot to put these two together. And with wire, that's pretty easy. Even I can do it. And of course, I must be wanting to waste that green, because I keep getting longer green than I get black. Ready to try it again? Yeah, I know. This is the hard part, because what happens is I'm trying to show you how to do it, and it's a lot harder. Thank goodness for the fine camera work, because that really makes a difference. Okay, so this time the black's going to be on the back. No, this time the black's going to be on the back. Let's do it right. Okay. Okay, there. This will drive you crazy as starting it. Okay, so get them about even. If you notice, by twisting it, I've trapped the wire. I'm going to go start with the unders. Under, which is green, under, which is green. Okay, I'm going to pull them back. Then I'm going to go over with the black, over with the black. Okay, pull it back, under with the green, under with the green, over, over, under, under, over, over, under, under, over, over, under, under, over, over, and you're just resequencing. And it's so simple that you wonder, why did I not do this before? Now, if you leave yourself short, like I am, you might have to pull a couple fingers out, but it's wire. So you don't have to have two fingers in there. You can make it work with one. And you notice I should have had that in there a little tighter on the vise. That's right, here we go. And then we'll just finish it off with a couple just to pack in the, there we go. So now it's black on top and green on the bottom. Then all I'm going to do is helicopter those off. One down, one to go. And if your bead, I probably could have put another couple wraps of wire. And if you notice, my bead's doing a little dance there. That's all right. That's what the 140's for. Big heavy thread. There we go. Get my bead where it's supposed to be. Grab my 140. Give it a little thread dam back there and tie all that down. Make sure that bead's not rocking and rolling. Okay. Now you've seen the Houdini weave to excess. Okay. And a little bit of straggle egg. Thought I had some in my box, and I'm sure I do. Oh, there's some right there. Okay, go ahead and find the thread of the straggle egg, pinch it in there. And build me some leg. There we go. Lo and behold, I found my whip finisher. Yeah, I need to sharpen that. There we go. Nothing to it.
Very nice.
Okay, the next one I'm going to do is a stonefly. Yes?
You've mentioned maybe using this Houdini weave for a stonefly, for instance.
Correct.
So you'd want to put a tail in there. So how would that be accomplished?
Okay, the question is, using the Houdini weave for a stonefly imitation, you'd want to put a tail in there. And yes, you do want to put a tail in there, and the tail complicates things a little bit because when you're using the back end of the vise, you've got to get the first two wraps on, and it's a little cumbersome. It can be done, but it's a little cumbersome. But if you're using goose buyouts like we're going to do in this next wrap, it can be done. You just have to be able to have that wire go flush up against your vise. And that's going to be tough with the buildup of thread that you have attaching the legs. So that's going to be where you get to play a little bit, and you're going to get a little frustrated, and I have. It works, but it's a little frustrating getting the first 2 wraps of wire. After that, it goes just like clockwork. Any other questions?
Do you have a particular place you like, not giving you any secrets, or that you like to particularly fish this guy?
That one right there fishes real good on the Uncompahgre right here in town. Yeah, real good right here in town. I mean, I've hooked a few right here at the Main Street Bridge that you just go, wow, I had no idea there were fish this big. And you think, really, at the Main Street Bridge? It's like, yeah, you know, urban fishing. You know, don't be afraid to try something because really you'll surprise yourself every time. Okay, we're switching to a different weave. Now, what we did with the Houdini Weave is 2 wires. And me being the cheap guy that I am, you know, I love Joann's Fabrics. And Joann's Fabrics has some neat things called embroidery floss. Really cheap material. In fact is, you may not even have to go to Joann's to get embroidery floss. You can normally just go to your spouse, to her sewing box. So I have several colors of embroidery floss. I'm going to use black and orange because orange seems to be good, although black and yellow works real well too. And I'm going to use some .030 lead. Let's see, lead or lead-free, either one. If you're in Montana, you need lead-free, not lead. The rest of the world can handle the lead apparently, but Montana cannot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a length of embroidery floss, if I can find the end. Here we go. And I'm going to take about maybe a 12-inch piece of embroidery floss. And both colors that I want to use. So I'm going to use black and orange. I'm going to use in my case, I can use a Daiichi 2220 size 6, or a Mustad 9672, or any other streamer hook with a decent gape. They'll all work fine. I'm not too particular about these hooks, just because they're, I mean, size 6 it's a pretty meaty hook. What I'm going to do is put a little bit of lead on it to get it down. And I'm going to use some goose buyouts for the tail and the legs. And I'm going to use some turkey for the wing case. So I've got a Daiichi 2220 size 6 in the vise. I'm going to take some of that lead and I'm going to take a substantial chunk of this because I'm going to wrap the whole shank of this hook. And I do this for 2 reasons. One, I'm going to shape the body with it. And 2, this is going to be tumbling along the bottom. That's where I want it. So I'm going to start this lead at the back of the hook, and I'm just basically going to wrap it with my hand. And I'm just going to wrap it till I feel better. I'm going to wrap the whole shank of that hook. Okay. There we go. And I've left myself a little bit of room at the back, not a great deal of room, but just a little bit of room because I'm going to put a little dubbing ball back there. And the reason I'm putting a dubbing ball back there is just to make the tails work a little easier. I'm going to go ahead and start my thread at the front, do a little thread dam. And this is UTC 140. I'm just going to cover the lead wraps. And if you notice, I'm just holding the tag end, and I do that just so it doesn't sink in so much. And then when I get to the back, I'm going to do another little thread dam, okay, at the back end, because I don't want this lead going anywhere. And then I'm going to fold that tag end back over and tie it down. And this is just me being cheap, but it also keeps the thread where I want it. Okay. Now what I've done here is I've covered this lead with the thread wraps. I'm going to come off the end here. Let me trim that little tag. Okay. I'm going to come off the end for just a minute and get my thread out of the way. I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to flatten this. And this is part of the body. I'm going to use the flat part of my pliers and smash it. So if you look now, I've flattened that body. It's got a little fatter profile, which is kind of like a stonefly. They are clingers. They cling to the bottom, and in doing so, they're flat-bodied, typically, the nymphs. I'm going to take some dubbing, and I like UV ice dub a lot, but I will mix it, and I'll mix it with some superfine like that, to where I can get just not quite so flashy, and I can actually make it compress a little better. UV ice dub doesn't like to compress much. I'm going to put a little ball, and I'm going to leave a little gap between the lead and the ball. And notice if you twist, you can hold that and really make that ball tight. And if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm holding the material, and that ball will be really tight. Okay? And then if you want, again, it's easier to take it, easier to put it on than it is to take it off. There we go. So now I got my little dubbing ball. I'm going to take some goose biots. Biots are the leading edge of the wing of a goose or of a turkey. And I'm going to see if I got any that are a little bit longer in here. There's some. Okay. And it's not so much that I wanted the length as not for the tail, but for the next part. I'm going to take 2 of these. And I'm going to tie them in. You can tie them in however you like. I tie them in one by one because it's easier for me to get them the way I want them. If you notice there's a curve, and you can see the curve on that. See how it's kind of curving a little bit? The curve, I want the curve to go to the outside. I want it to curve away from the dubbing ball. I'm going to measure this, and this should be about 1.5 times the hook gape. So that's about 1.5 right there. That's where I'm going to tie it in. And I'm going to put that on the far side so it sweeps away. I'm going to reach over, and I'm in the gape between the ball and the lead. So now, if you see, I can just match that with the other one, and this one I'm going to have curve away from the ball, or away from the hook. I'm going to match the length and put it in the same place on the other side. Now, are they even? If they're not, I have a chance to fix it now. Are they too long? Are they too short? Okay, let me shorten that one up a little bit. There we go. Down the stubs. There we go. So there's the tail. That's the hardest part of this fly. It's not the tying of the weave. The weave is the easy part. That one went all the way to the floor. Technical difficulty. User error. That's what we'll call it. Okay, so this embroidery thread comes in 6 strands. And it's normally pretty good. This one is wanting to come apart a little bit. I'm going to twist it a little bit just because. And it's not going to matter because I'm going to use it all anyway. And I'm going to wet it. Okay. Again, probably not the nicest thing. I'm going to go ahead and lay this on top. I'm going to put the black on top, and I'm going to put the orange on the bottom. Okay. And I'm going to take this and tie it all the way down into that gap behind the lead, okay? So there's the black on top. Now I'm going to get the orange, which I had ready, and I do not see.
You didn't cut it yet.
Didn't cut it yet. Apparently didn't cut it yet. Okay, here's the orange. There we go. And cut the orange. Again, this is just embroidery floss. It's nothing special. I'm going to flip that over. On the underside, I'm going to tie in the orange. And you don't even have to be this precise. I'm just being picky. Okay, and then wrap it all down. And take this down to the back and get that in the right starting position in that little crook between the lead and the rest. Now I'm just going to tie this off and get rid of my thread. Okay. 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. Are you ready to start seeing some magic? This is where the magic happens. And it's not magic like Houdini. This is tying knots. You ready?
Just about.
Just about. Okay. Now, on the bottom, and I'm going to put black on the top. And I remind myself of that by tying the black on the top and the orange on the bottom. The orange will go over the top of the black. Notice the thread, the floss is just hanging down. It goes over the top, around it, and then come out. So there's an overhand knot. That's all I've done was an overhand knot. Then I'm going to take the black tag and put it over the top. At this point, all I have to do is cinch it down and make sure of where I have this orange dot. See that orange dot? I want that along the side, okay? And I want them to line up. So now I can just pull it tight, okay? Now they're hanging down again. And what I'm going to do is take the orange over the top, around it, come out, okay? I'm going to lift up the black, put the black over the top, and there's your knot. And now all I'm looking for is the little dot on the opposite side. So there's my little dot. And then I tighten it down. So it's at this point over the top, around. Lift the black up over the hook shank. Pull them. Okay. Now, the key to this is keeping the line, these dots lined up. Okay. If you can keep the dots lined up, you'll have a pretty fly. If you can't, well, it'll be pretty ugly. But it'll still fish. Okay, over the top with the black. Pull it tight. See how I'm lining them up? You have a little bit before you pull it tight to line them up. Again, over the top, around. Hold this here, lift the black, put the black over the hook shank. The orange will go underneath. Line up your dot, pull it taut. Man, I'm a poet and don't know it. Okay? And when you get in a rhythm of this, it goes really fast. This, if you look on the bottom, let me see if I can't lift that up so you can actually see what the bottom's going to look like. The bottom will be black along the edge and orange along the bottom. The top will have the orange along the edge and the black on the top, which is exactly what we're after. Over around, lift the black up over the hook shank, pull it, tighten, over around, lift the black over the hook shank, tighten, over around, black over the hook shank, notice you just keep lining up the dots. That's all you're doing is line up the dots. Up. Now, how far do you need to go? I always go too far, but I do it for a purpose. It gives it the silhouette. You don't really need to. I could probably stop right there. But because really, I'm going to cover a lot of that with dubbing. I'm going to cover a lot of it with other things. But you know, I'm looking for the fat, meaty thorax. I'm looking for all the things. So, plus, it's easy for me to just keep doing this. It's therapeutic. I think I'll do a few more and be done with it. See, I held that just for you and missed it. There we go. One more, and then what we're going to do is tie this off. Which it can't come soon enough at this point. There we go. All right. So there is the completed body, which came out pretty good, I'd say. And it really isn't that difficult, and it isn't, again, if you're not teaching it, it goes really quick. If you're teaching it, it's a little slower than you might think. But if you're teaching, if you're actually tying it, it really goes by fairly quick. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the embroidery floss once over, and I'm doing this to help build up that thorax when I'm tying it down. Just so I don't use so much dubbing. Embroidery floss is cheap. I can use a lot of dubbing. Okay. All right. So now I've got that tied down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of clean that up a little bit. And I'm going to bring this back to about the halfway point of the hook shank, right about here. And I'm going to go ahead and tie in the wing case. Now, normally I would tie in the wing case. It depends on the wing case I'm doing. If I'm doing a fold over wing case, I would tie it in right here. But I'm going to do a little different wing case on this one than a fold over. I'm going to do the wing case where I've used a burner and prepare the wings. So I'm going to put a little dubbing here, and this is to keep the legs splaying And we're going to use goose buyouts for the legs. And again, when you apply the dubbing, pull the thread down taut and twist one direction. I can't stress this enough. If that thread is taut, this dubbing goes on easy. If the thread is not, your dubbing's not going to be any fun at all. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put that little, just almost a wing, or almost a dubbing ball right there. At this point, I'm going to take a leg, another goose buyout. I grab the short one again. I have a tendency to do that. Here we go. Take two of them. And this should be about the length, the remaining length of the body. I'll actually put that down. Again, I'm going to put the curve away from the body. So if you look here, I want that to be about the length of the body. So that's going to be my tie-in right there. Do you see how that's about the length of the body? I'm going to hold it down on the side and wrap it. There's the one. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to get it about the length of the body. I'm going to put it right along the side. And tie it in. Okay, that one's splayed up for some odd reason. So I'm just going to fix it. You get one chance at these things, right? There you go. Much better. Okay? So now I'm going to put another dubbing ball on. So a little bit more dubbing with a little bit of flash. Again, I'm going to stretch this as much as I can. I'm going to put it on, hold the thread taut, twist one direction. Okay, and now I'm ready for another leg. Keep grabbing the other one. Okay. Again, this one is going to be about the same length of leg. So what I'm going to do is make sure it's splaying away from the body. I'm going to put it here. I'll make it about the same length. Tie it in. Okay. And I'm going to make it splay, I'm going to tie it tight against that dubbing ball that I just put in. And that'll make it splay better and keep them separated. Now this can be done with rubber legs, you can do it with whatever. It's the weaving that I wanted you to see more than the great leg display. But if you look, see how the legs are splaying just fine. At this point I'm going to take, I've used a wing burner and pre-burned a few wings. Now, mind you, when you are burning these wings, and you do this with turkey, okay, with a turkey feather. And I'm using a burner. What I do is I prepare the turkey feather with some hairspray or flexible spray, 3M spray, whatever. I use hairspray. It seems to work just as well. And then I separate a piece and then I just burn that nice pattern. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take that and put that over the top. And it's going to go back to about where the back legs are. I'm going to lay it in on top. I'm going to take a wrap, loose wrap, another loose wrap, and then I'm going to pull up. Okay? So you see how that wing case went on? That was 2 loose wraps and then pull straight up. I'm going to trim off that excess. That's the first case. Then I'm going to do some more dubbing, some more legs, another wing case, and then I'm going to bend the legs. And everyone always asks, how do you make the legs look like legs? Well, you bend them. You just kink them. It's nothing too serious. And if you really want to get after it, you can put a little dab of UV to hold the legs in that bent position. But all I'm going to do right now, put a little bit more dubbing on, cover up where I tied in the wing case, give a little more room for the legs. It'll be good. And we're almost there. Okay. Get us back up here. All right. I keep grabbing short legs. I'm not sure how I do it. Here we go. All right. Again, I'm looking for the curve, the natural curve, away from the body. Lay it on. Get it to the dubbing ball. Okay, there. Lay it on, get it to the dubbing ball. There we go. I got one going down, one going up. Well, let's just fix that. And then we're going to put on one more wing case. So here's another prepared one. Oh, a little dubbing first. Sorry. Got ahead of myself. Got to cover up your mistakes. There you go. little coaxing. That's all it needs, a little coaxing. Second wing case should go about halfway back the first wing case. Loose wrap, pull straight up. Adjust your position if you need to. Now, at this point, you notice my thread keeps slipping off the front. I'm going to counterclockwise spin that thread. This is where I'm going to show you what that thread control. If you counterclockwise spin that thread, when I lift it up, notice how the thread jumps back. See how it's jumping back right here towards the bend of the hook? That way I can pull it down and set it in a different place. And the reason I wanted to do that was to get that to build a little different. There we go. Okay, and I can whip finish this thing, bend the legs, and be done with him. And I got a couple little gaps that I don't like, but that's okay. You did see the weave. And that's what I was trying to accomplish. Okay. That's probably the worst one I've tied. Okay, so to bend the legs, literally, you take them, and you can use a bodkin if you want. You can use whatever it is to get them to kink, and then press them against the body. Once they've pressed against the body, they'll stay kinked. If they don't, you can put a little dab of UV right in the bend and heat it up, and I promise they'll stay kinked. But that's what gives it that really buggy look. And it takes a little bit of patience to get them to kink where you want them. But once you get them to kink, they stay. This one kind of rotated up, and I should have fixed it, and I didn't. That's okay. We're gonna coax him down. Last but not least, one to go. Again, he's pretty buggy. And that's the knot weave. Any questions?
Thanks for coming out.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks.
I do have one question. From Caleb up in the Windy City. He wanted to, but I think you've already answered this. Other colors that you do this in yellow and black, is that correct?
Yellow and black,
Yeah.
green as well. And you can do greens and yellows, different greens.
Okay.
But yellow and black is really nice.
Yeah.
But you can use dark greens, and it really depends on the flies you're seeing, what colors you're seeing.
Sure.
I like the contrast of the orange and black and the yellow and black, probably the best.
Time of year you like to fish this?
You know, coming up right about May.
Yeah, not
Real
too
good
far.
time.
Not too far. Yeah, yep. Preston, you had a question.
Yeah, my question was just, have you ever tried to tie it in a smaller size?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And let me, the question was, do you tie it in smaller sizes like 10 or 12? Yes, I do. And let me show you the trick to it. This is 6-strand embroidery floss. And what you do is you pull it down and separate it, and you can do 2 strands. You can do 3 strands. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you can make this much smaller with using the same material. So you can use 2 strands of it, and it will tie just as beautifully. In fact, it's much faster because you got less space to cover.
Are we off?
But it really ties beautiful on smaller. If you wanted to use 1 strand, it would work fine. Oh, you're very welcome.
Very cool. Very good.
Thank you, Nolan.
Hey, thank
for
you,
everything.
man. Let's give him a round. That was great.
Alrighty.
Hey, you are a great teacher, and I just appreciate you very much.
Alrighty.
We're very privileged to have you in our community.
Thank you, Nolan.
Hey, thank you guys for showing up this morning. Come see us next week. Thanks again to Drew Lowen Creative and his team. If you need any creative video type projects, see them. They do a great job. Thanks to Jeff Dean and all his help and support in putting this on. And just thank you all for being out there. Next week, I have a special guest coming in from the Front Range. Alec Gerbeck with Umpqua Feather Merchants is going to be with us. Alec it's going to be a treat, guys. He's a great tire, a signature tire for Umpqua, a lot of guiding experience, and as well, after his tying session, we're going to go down to the river and he's going to do a Euro nymphing clinic for us. He was a 2-year Fly Fishing USA team member. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. Till later. Tight lines, man. Take care.